Okay, this will work. This will work. Okay, let me make sure that everything is on. Everything is on. Sure. View your channel. We're all good. Everything's fine. Everything's all good. I'll give people a few seconds to pile in for anyone who wants to join. So we will wait patiently. Yeah. But before we start, um, start this live stream. It isn't about Latour. It isn't, because it isn't about. A lot of the stuff I do in this channel is about Latour, and it's for actually very particular reasons. It's actually for because of what we're going to be talking about now. Mostly, the way Latour goes about all of his stuff is actually extremely relevant to the thing I'm interested in, and I've been interested in. So yeah, we'll give people a little bit. Also, I should probably turn my mic towards my face, but it'll probably. Oh, I just realized. I should probably at everyone. I should probably at people. Hold on, sorry. At everyone. Okay. Okay. Okay, probably would help if I did that if I actually added fucking people. I just realized I didn't do that because I've been this was something I was working, and I decided I wanted to do this. There was something that came up. Um, I think it was actually the thing we're gonna be doing tonight for book club that actually inspired me to do this. That's where I got the image from. But um, so yeah, so yeah. But now we will actually wait for people to start piling in. Because it isn't about Latour. It's nothing. It's about it's about a lot of other stuff. Um, but so a little bit of backstory about me. Um, I made a video essay recently, and part of it I didn't go in depth into experiences I had, but I had experiences, and I had um quite horrible experiences. Because of this, I had more horrible experiences. In particular, uh, with mental health care stuff. I am from Florida. Um, this is to some people of no particular note, but Florida does something very interesting. We have this law. What is it? What is it? Well, you see right here, called the Baker Act. That's actually what it's called. Sometimes if you ever talk to me and I bring this up, you'll hear me use the term Baker Act. And the Baker Act is basically uh, if you uh, are deemed a threat to yourself or others, or I think also if you are deemed incapable of taking care of yourself as a result of mental illness, it has to, and the key thing is it has to be specifically mental illness. It can't be due to a intellectual or developmental disability of some kind is how I'm gonna phrase that. That might be the kind of the wrong way of saying it, but it has to be because of mental illness. You can be held for at least 72 hours, though you actually can be held longer. You usually are held longer. Um, And I had experiences with this, particularly as a child. Um, and so we're going to talk about this. And it was horrible and it was terrible. It really sucked. I didn't get any help or treatment I needed. Um, and so that's what this is going to be about. To start off, we're going to be going over my prejudice against basically all um, mental health systems that in any way resemble this, in any way advocate for anything like this. Um, highly against a lot of this stuff for very particular reasons. All right. So this little article called Palm Beach County School District revised its Baker Act policy after federal court judgment. You're going to be asking, what happened? We'll find out, won't we? This was in 2023, by the way. A case against the Palm Beach County School District has ended with the district agreeing to pay $440,000 to students and parents. Palm Beach County, Florida, on July 19th. The Palm Beach County School Board will consider proposed revisions to its current policy regarding the use of forced psychiatric examinations of school children under the Florida Mental Health Law, also known as the Baker Act. The revisions are being considered after U.S. District Court Judge Aline Cannon entered a judgment against the district on behalf of students with disabilities who were unlawfully handcuffed and/or removed from their school and subjected to an involuntary psychiatric examination without parental consent. The lawsuit filed in June 2021 sought changes in how the school district used the Baker Act to address a host of student behaviors that do not meet legal requirements for involuntary examination. The court previously found, for example, that the plaintiffs had sufficiently alleged that the school district initiated involuntary examinations for students with autism, even though the Baker Act prohibits its use for developmental disabilities like autism. Some policies were implemented that after the lawsuit was filed, and as a result, the district claims the number of Baker Acts on school campuses has dropped by more than 80%, which advocates hope to confirm. We're going to stop right here and we're going to talk a little bit about all of this. So, interesting facts about Baker Acts in Florida. Who are they initiated by most often? Well, they're most often initiated by police officers. They aren't actually administered by psychiatric professionals of any sort, like literally at all. In most places, a psychiatric professional doesn't even have to be there with the cop, or there isn't even like an option of that. That isn't like a thing that can happen in most counties, like in Florida. Also, very interesting to note about the number. Okay, taking this at face value, 80%. There was an 80% reduction in Baker Acts, which is insane. Which is like actually insane. And if you think that this number might be low, it isn't. Florida's amount of Baker Acts or whatever you want to say, involuntary psychiatric examinations, whatever you want to call it. Florida has like the highest out of every single state. I can find. Oh, are they? I didn't even hear a Discord notification. I have no clue. How you guys heard that? Do I have my headphones connected to my phone? No, I shouldn't. Oh, I don't even have them connected. I'm so sorry, guys. This was actually, I hope you guys know this is me like going off. This is like basically me going off the cuff. This isn't like stuff. This is stuff I've been collecting for a while. I have I have a heavy bias. Yeah, I heavy bias. I'm insanely biased against all this shit. Yeah, also yes, serious. It's insane. 50% would be insane. 50% of this would be insane. Okay, but 80%, 80% claimed by the school district is insane. It's it's a fucking huge number. But I can probably find it. I think I have it saved somewhere. I just have to pull up my Google Doc on this stuff. I have to go through it. But the last time I checked, I think it was an article from 2022 I found. It was like a year ago now, I'm pretty sure. Um, Talked about how Florida actually has the most amount of involuntary psychiatric examinations. And this is like not just like uh, uh this is like I think per I think it's like per 100,000 people. I think it's like it's measured so there would be like a it's not just that it has like the most numbers wise, it has the most like ratio. I don't know how statistics work. They didn't actually say what changes. I have no clue what changes they actually made to do this. Um, I don't even think they said. Um, I kind of after I read this the first time, I haven't gone back to this in a while because I've kind of been like fucking I have a hard time going over this stuff, and so I can only go over this stuff when I'm like in a rage and fury. Because I just get mad. I just get really mad because I've dealt with this stuff, and so I'm like, yep, yep, yep. All this makes sense. All this I understand. Yep, I've had this happen to me. Yep, and so yeah. But I don't think they directly say what changes meant. We can probably find it. We can just probably go to the lawsuit. We can probably go here. Let's see. Is there a changes? Policy for new training. Any staff on training. Let's see. School District Palm Beach County. Okay, so this is SDBPC, by the way, School District Palm Beach County. I'm almost certain. Did I already look at this? Did I look at this? Was I already looking at this to find something and then I didn't know. Causes of action. No, these are the counts. Count 4, count 5. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Count 10. Never actually looked at a lawsuit, at like a lawsuit or anything, so I might be completely miss. There might be like an easy way to figure this out, or I might just fucking completely have missed it. But enjoy. Um, I'm pretty sure a lot of this is making it follow under the actual. Some of this is going to be making it follow under the Baker Act law. That's what this is. It's basically like you need to fucking make sure that everything actually, because some schools actually do use this as a punishment. This has happened. I know kids who this has happened. Not like just in Palm Beach County, but just like in other places. Like this is just like a thing that happens in Florida. Maintain written documentation of all referrals from voluntary examination under the Baker Act. Yep. The Baker Act is weird. Um, there is simultaneously a lot of documentation around very specific parts of the process and a lack of documentation of other parts. It's very interesting, actually. Create a committee, including at least one school district, to review the file and consult with school staff regarding any student has been subjected to an involuntary examination under the Baker Act more than once during the prior or current school year to identify any services. This is okay. So I assume this is just um maybe it there's a problem. The Baker Act is overused. It is just overused. If you read like any like reports like from people in Florida, like even from like the state itself, like so okay, the Baker Act's weird. Florida uh uh Ron DeSantis did this thing where he required a report to be made about the Baker Act, about like gathering statistics around it. I don't know if Ron DeSantis was actually responsible for that, or just someone under him suggested it, or if it was actually something already in circulation and Ron DeSantis just did it. And it was he just took it on as like a thing, or if a previous candidate advocated for it. But under Ron DeSantis' governorship, um, there is now a biannual report. It's every 2 years that comes out about the Baker Act, and if you read this, it explicitly talks about, I believe also, how there was a certain number of Baker Acts that are like it's overused to some degree. There are ways to just simply reduce it. You can just reduce it, and you can get the number really low actually. Um, just by adding a few more programs and also changing how things are enforced. Um, there's a lot of stuff. And some counties have actually already adopted it, but the majority of Florida, to my knowledge, hasn't. But yeah, kind of. It's kind of basically that. Um, I'm pretty sure. We can go through this. Let's see. There might be more. They de-identified aggregated to be available to families. Okay, so a lot of this is just around data, collecting data. After the fact, reviews of all involuntary examinations. Yep, collecting more data. Child study team. Okay, adding more to support. Implement improved practices written by expert, approved by the parties or the court, and engage in ongoing monitoring and evaluation by experts in the following areas. SBC widely timely access to mental behavioral health service, support programs, activities for all students in the most integrated setting. A lot of it is also, it seems, around training and around enforcing new standards and new things, which I think is also probably important to all this, because now it because one of the things is they might not have had to um take diligent notes on it or do it. I forget if the school has to make a record when they're Baker acting somebody, or if I forget how it works. I haven't looked at this stuff in a while, but yeah. Yeah. So a lot of it is around changing the way how it's enforced, but also a lot of it is things added to the school to make sure that even if a kid is Baker acted, they don't get Baker acted more because they have like the school has resources uh for that. So yes and no. But probably a lot of it is also I assume a lot of it is around the procedural aspect. A lot of them, as I was reading it, and I'm sure you heard me reading it out loud, most of it obviously was also around documentation. They have to actually document things. Um, and I assume if they didn't, they could get another lawsuit. So yeah. However, the district has not adopted policies that follow federal law regarding parental consent and the use of force by police. So that kind of answers your question. I realize I forgot about this part. So no, the answer is no. The answer is kind of no. The U.S. District Court held that parental consent was constitutionally required before an involuntary examination, except in the event of a true emergency. Yes, it yeah, yeah. Well, when I say document, I also mean more than just document. I kind of mean a lot of more things. I also don't just mean document, so yeah, sorry about that. Weird phrasing then. The revised policy does not include measures that disability rights advocates say will keep children safe from harm associated with the Baker Act, including the use of force by police. The Department of Justice also weighed in by filing a statement of interest in the case in June. The department reiterated that the district's responsibility to meet the needs of its students with disabilities through known interventions that could prevent police officers from subjecting children to involuntary examinations. The court order issued on July 5th enters judgment for nearly $500,000 to the students and their parents. Plaintiffs in the case were represented by lawyers for Disability Rights Florida, Southern Poverty Law Center, Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County, the Pash Law District, King and Spalding LLP, the National Center for Youth Law. Disability Rights Florida is committed to ensuring that all students are treated with dignity and respect. Rights are protected under the law, said Peter Schliessman, Executive Director of DRF. We believe that the current district's policy does not meet these standards, and we are willing to work with the district on behalf of our constituents to ensure all students' rights are protected. The district's policy is in full compliance with the law. Palm Beach County School District has too long refused to do what it needs to fully protect children from unlawful action under the Baker Act, said Bacardi Jarson, Interim Debo, Deputy Legal Director for Children's Rights at the SPLC. We applaud the district for making some changes, calling on school board members to reject the current proposed policy and adopt additional changes that will make the policy comport with the law, that will address the systematic failures that were revealed in discovery, demonstrate its respect for the rights of parents and children. Disability rights advocates seek additional training for school staff and administrators and policy changes that severely limit the circumstances when handcuffs may be used on children who pose no threat to themselves or to others. Advocates are also urging the school board to offer parents the opportunity to assist in de-escalating a student if the student is transported for involuntary examination under the Baker Act. Specific edits to the policy being proposed and submitted to the school board for consideration can be found here. Right, look at that. I'm gonna open this. But yeah, this is one of the big things. This isn't just common to this school district. There are other things. Let me get up my Google Doc. Google Doc. Google Docs. I'm not showing, right? No, I'm not. I'm still covering mine. Let's see. Where is my? Yeah, that's true. I do that. I have so much shit. Okay, it's probably on this account then. Oh, this is where it is. Yay! Let's see. And which one was it? I wish I would have changed this. Okay, we're gonna look for Florida. This is what I'm looking for, some specific. Oh, I immediately found it. Okay. Yay! Happy, happy, happy. We're gonna learn about some things. So, in the introduction of this one, which is called, it's by uh, is it just called US? It's not called USF. That okay? Oh, because it's okay. It's different thing. Sorry, different thing. This is called the article's called Florida Baker Act laws: how Florida's excessive use of Baker Acts can be harmful to children. So let's read. Florida is an outlier for Baker Acts because the state involuntarily evaluates and commits children at a rate much higher than any other state in the country. In Florida, more than 37,000 children are Baker Acted each year. Not all states collect data on Baker Acts, but out of the 25 states that do collect data, Florida's rate is at least twice the rate of 80% of the states that track this data. Florida involuntarily commits more than 800 people per 100,000 people per year, and is the only state to have rates that high. Colorado and Massachusetts are the only two other states that have rates exceeding 600 per 100,000, and only 3 states exceed 400. And when was this? I forget. Oh, sorry. It wasn't 2022. It was 2023. I forgot. I did this last year and it was like a year behind. Um, yes, Florida's the highest as of 2023. This could have changed, but I don't think so. Florida has an insanely high Baker Act rate. It's insanely high. It is something that is like if you live in Florida, you know someone who's been Baker acted. Um, Especially if you are poor, especially if you have like any history of trauma, you're gonna be Baker acted. And Baker Act, right? Sorry, the Baker Act is what Florida calls its uh, uh, involuntary when someone is involuntarily committed for a psychiatric evaluation. Yeah, in Florida has 800 per 100,000. Think about that. Oh, sorry, more than 800 people per 100,000. Sorry. Yeah, it's insane. Florida's crazy. Um, I'm actually, as I do this, I should actually post the stuff I'm doing. We're gonna post this in live stream chat. Here you go. Here's one, and I think you should be able to access this because this isn't a PDF that I had to download. Yeah, okay, you should be good. What? Oh, oh, that's why. Sorry, I was confused. Um, but yes, yes. And so now we're gonna talk about experience. So you might be wondering, how many times have I been Baker acted? You're asking. Curious. Around 20 times, I'm pretty sure. It might actually be 21. I've been Baker acted a lot. Um, I think most of them were kind of unnecessary. Um, but that actually kind of isn't the point. The point is, I was Baker acted 20 times, and the help I got from those Baker acts was next to none. It didn't help me. It didn't do anything for me. If I am charitable, what are Baker acts good for? Well, they're good for one thing, and basically one thing only. If you are a person who suffers from any mental health condition and you're really struggling, you've had to stop your meds, you stopped your meds either because you ran out of them and you can't afford more, or for whatever reason you decided to stop them, but they actually did help you. We're gonna assume they actually helped you under this. Uh, that is what it's good for, and that's basically it. There's not much else it's good for, um, because you aren't being committed under the Baker Act. That's not what it is. You aren't being like put into a facility for an extended period of time. It is meant to be short term. Generally, can be made longer, but that's a different thing. That isn't something that I am talking about here. Yes, yes, that's literally all it's good for. Um, but like if I'm streamlining it from being as charitable as possible, it's good for that as well. It's good for getting people back on the medication they need to get back on. If they for instance, they feel like they actually are a danger to themselves. Maybe they actually do feel genuinely dangerous and they're worried they're gonna have a psychotic break, or they're like on the verge of, sorry, not psychotic, they're going into psychosis, or they already are in psychosis, and they need help with that. And at best, that is what it's good for. But most people, and especially most kids like me, weren't going through that. What most Baker Acts were when I was in there wasn't actually even for people who tried to kill themselves. It was actually mostly for runaways. That's interesting, right? Yes. Another thing you can get Baker Acted for is running away from home. Interesting, isn't it? Um, that's like a very curious. It's like, okay, well, eh, so you can have that happen. Most of the kids I knew, um, had horrible home lives. They had terrible home lives. None of that would ever get addressed. No one cared. And here's to the actual experience. So I've now been as an adult, and the experience from being a child. Yeah, yeah. But I've been as an adult, and to explain what it's the difference is between when you're a child, I've mostly been as a child. Yes, yes, yes. No, 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 it really isn't. The Baker Act is actually severely, um, severely like underplanned. It's like it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, especially for children, because of what I'm about to get into. When you're a child, what do you get to do? Okay, you get to sit in a room for those 3 days. You get to sit still. You get to do nothing. You get to have, yeah, yeah. It basically is. But when you're a child, you don't get to move around a lot. You have to ask to use the restroom. And you can't even like really get up to use the restroom. You have to like basically it's raise your hand. Um, you have to sit in a chair all day long. You can't stand. You can't do anything. Um, Maybe every now and again you get a few worksheets. Maybe if you're lucky, depending on the facility, you'll get crayons or something. Maybe um, you'll even get to write, but you won't get to do anything. You won't get to do much, and you get to stay in this cramped room with about 20 kids. There'll be about 20 kids with 3 to 4 staff members around at any given time. So you're in a cramped space with 24 people usually. Um, and you have no freedom of movement. You are trapped in one room. Um, and it's awful. It is terrible. Um, the the second time I was Baker acted, um, I was 12. I think I was still 12. I might have just turned 13. Either just turned 13 or I was still 12. Um, the psychiatrist came in, um, and she was talking to me, and I didn't want to talk to her. But I explained some stuff. I answered some of her questions, but I generally avoided what she was asking. Um, and I said a word, and it wasn't even that big of a word. And she said to me in the snarkiest fucking tone, um, I bet you can't even spell that word. And so, me being me, I fucking spelled it for her. Like it was like insane. And you don't get treated, especially when you're a kid, you aren't a person in those places. You aren't a person when you're an adult. But you feel even less so as a child. You don't feel like you're a human. You are um property. Um yeah, yeah. Oh, and by the way, I talked to the other kids who had been there at that facility multiple times, and they said, yeah, and they said that was a really common thing. And by the way, just for a note, if you're thinking, oh, you must have been just sent to like one facility a whole bunch of time, up to this point, I've been sent to about 7 or 8 different facilities in Florida, um, that handle this stuff. I've been to quite a few, so I kind of know stuff. I kind of know stuff. Um, I've been so much that I know some of the staff. Like the staff know me. Like they would if I went to some of the places, the staff would be like, "You're back again? Oh my god!" Like they know me. Like I'm not. It's not like I've only been to one or two, and all of these I've had experiences like this to some extent where I've seen this happen to other people. Um, uh, to just stop my little rant for a second and to go on to Karasu and Sirius are saying. I experienced this issue, this from Karasu. I experienced this issue of passing information without dementia care in UK. So essential and so many abuse slash neglect arose due to this. Yeah, and it's like a thing. It's like a really big thing. And then Sirius said, I had a friend who was on vacation in New York. Something extremely traumatic happened to her. She was involuntarily committed based on one instance of suicidal ideation. She, she had no access to her friends or her family. And yeah, this isn't like, I want to be clear. Florida is the worst case of this. But I read a lot, and sometimes I'll get stuff in like my YouTube feed because I- will watch news stuff about incidents that happen. I'll watch videos from people about this stuff. This isn't like an uncommon thing, like throughout all of America. Through all of America, who has something like this, especially, um, it's it's what it's. I often say that I am on my takes around mental health. I am borderline reactionary, and I kind of mean that genuinely. And it's because of stuff like this. You see a lot of stuff. And your first instinct is, we must tear it all down. We have to. Just fucking get rid of it. It is a cancer. It is a poison. It is hurting so many people. Um, Either directly or indirectly through family members being hurt and the effects that cause from that. It's not helping as I don't think it's helping as many people as people think. I let's watch a video. Let's watch a video. Um, I'm gonna show you guys a video. Let's see if I have it saved. Because I forget if I have it saved on this account or if it's on my other account. And I still have to pull that up on my other account. I hope I moved it over to this. It wouldn't be in research. It wouldn't be in this. Okay, so I probably actually do have it. Maybe it's my liked videos. View full playlist. We're gonna watch. We're gonna skip to a specific part of the video. By the way, it's not going to be the entire one. The video's like 40 minutes. It's like a 40-minute long video. Okay, I think I have it on my other account then. Let's do that. Go here. Is it in my liked videos? Here. Should probably just search. Oh, I can actually bed. Fuck, that was loud. Mental health. Fuck, what was his name and where the fuck did I save it? Okay, maybe I actually have it in my bookmarks. Let's see, is it in important? Nope. Probably in here then. No, it's not. This is upsetting to me. Where do I have it? Because I should have had. Oh, why don't I have this? Okay, we're gonna go back to my YouTube account since um oh, sorry. It's not Ohio, it's Illinois. Bed problem, university, law. Mental health. We're gonna do key terms. I found him. This is him. This is him. His name's Mark Hireman. He seems really. I hope he's good. Ah, yes. This is it. This is it. I'm gonna go here. You know, I believe you. I can see how dementia care in private care soon. I can see how dementia care in private sectors in the UK works and creates these issues slash abuses. And the rest of it. Though most of Europe, through most of Europe, there was a move from institutionalization, especially of mental health, more or less successfully since the 90s. By the way, in pre-89, Hungary, mental health institutionalization had been used on political dissident. That was the way getting out of it. Yeah. getting them out of the public life. Let's see. We have a great example. So I think this is where he goes into his funny example um um about how even this being used strictly for good can lead to very horrible outcomes.
So typically, one way you get to a psychiatric hospital is that a policeman will pick you up. We can talk about a variety of scenarios. You're in downtown Chicago, and you wander out into the middle of State Street and you're talking to yourself, and the policeman says to you, it's not safe. We'll assume the policeman is a sensitive guy. He politely says, unlike all the policemen that Craig sues, he's a sensitive guy, and we are in the process of trying to train police officers in this city and across the country about how to deal with mentally ill people. So the police officer says, it's not safe for you to be in the middle of State Street. Go to the curb, and the guy says no, or maybe he says some expletive to the police officer. So then what will the police officer do? The police officer is going to solve this problem. He's not going to let you stay in the middle of State Street, if only because it will block traffic, even if he's not sensitive and even if he doesn't care about you. But whether he cares about you or not, he's not going to let you stay there. So he can do one of two things. When you refuse to leave the middle of State Street and you issue the expletive to the police officer, you have committed a crime. You have failed to obey a lawful order of a policeman, or you've committed disorderly conduct. The police officer can arrest you and bring you through and to start the processing of you in the criminal justice system. He can. Or if he thinks you're mentally ill and he wants to do this, he can say, well, maybe you belong in a psychiatric hospital. Maybe you belong in a psychiatric hospital. And he can begin that process. So he can take you to one of the designated places which every police officer is given a list of where you take people who are seriously mentally ill that do intake screening. Okay? And when he takes you there, they will screen. We'll talk about how they screen. Now, we've actually done research in a wonderful woman named Linda Teplin, who teaches at Northwestern, has done research on what affects the behavior of police officers when they come upon someone who they think is mentally ill under these circumstances. And notice that while there are you can think of lots of other scenarios, almost all of the scenarios involve something that would be a relatively trivial, but would be a crime. You're in a restaurant, you won't leave. That's a crime. It's trespass. The restaurant owner calls the police and says, can you get this guy out of here? I don't really want to press charges, but I want him out of here. Police officer can have you arrested, or he can take you to the mental health system if he thinks that's appropriate. So Linda Teplin did research on how it is that police officers behave. She did this research on the condition that the city where the research was being done not be named. She's willing to say that it was done in a large city next to a big lake. Could be Cleveland. And she sent her graduate students to ride along with police officers, okay? So, and then describe their behavior when they came upon someone with a mental illness. And what she found was the number one thing that affected police behavior was their perception and their ability to solve the problem quickly. And by that, did they think, and was it true, that if they took you to the mental hospital would keep you? Or would they turn you away? So police officers know something about the law, but in fact they don't do legal research by and large, nor perhaps should they. So they learn what the effective commitment standard is from the screening people. From the screening people who either say, we're accepting this person or we're turning him or her away. So police officers are not going to take someone into custody, even if they believe, because they've carefully studied this and they've looked at all the published cases, that the person meets the commitment criteria if they think, in fact, the screening folks are not going to accept them. Because the last thing they want to happen, and unfortunately this does happen, is that the person gets turned away and ends up back in their precinct on their watch. And they have to solve the problem yet again. They don't want to be called by that same restaurant owner saying, I thought I told you to take this person away. And so if they think that the mental health system will not take care of you, their only other choice is to take you into the criminal justice system if they want to get you off their beat on their shift and not have you return. And it's a perfectly lawful choice for them to make. You have committed a misdemeanor. Almost certainly you have. Almost certainly you have. I mean, if you're even mildly resistant when they try to take you, that's a crime, resisting arrest. So they have the authority to do this. I would just say the most interesting thing about this research is not the results, which I take can be somewhat predictable, but what the police were willing to do, knowing that there was someone taking notes. So here's something that is reported in her wonderful paper on this topic, Linda's wonderful paper, is police officer picks up someone, is taking him to a mental health screening center, which is at a hospital, and pulls off in a dark area, takes the mentally ill person out of the back seat of the car and beats him up and throws him back in the car, and continues to the mental hospital and gets this person admitted. Does this in front of, notice, a graduate student. The graduate student had the temerity to ask the police officer why he did that. I'm not sure I would have the temerity. I would say, oh, I didn't see it. The police officer said, because this person is seriously mentally ill, he wasn't exhibiting sufficient symptoms of that illness to be admitted. That's where he belongs, and I knew he would go in there and tell them that he had been beaten up by the police officers. They would think he was paranoid, and they would admit it. So this is the kinder, gentler police officer who wants you in the mental health system, knowing that going through the criminal justice system is not a great alternative for people with mental illnesses. Or not. Or not. But that's the explanation. That's...
Yes! Yes, and part of this was a thought experiment, but part of this was based on literal fucking research. And so the person who wants to ostensibly help you potentially, who, we're going to be charitable to this police officer, the police officer currently does want to help, what does he do? Fucking beats you. Fucking beats you. So yeah, this isn't, as you can tell, I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of random stuff about all different kinds of things that I collect. And I just collect things. I like collecting things like this because they're very important to me. This is all very important to me because of my 20 Baker Acts. I have as many Baker Acts as I am old. So, as years I've been alive. Yeah. It's, yeah. And it was a I think it was earlier this year. Um um One of them was because uh I was hoping the first time, both of the times I got myself committed. Basically, the last two times were I wasn't committed by anyone. I basically had myself committed. Um, The first time was basically so maybe sometimes they do give you some resources. The resources usually suck. But I was hoping I could get back into therapy. Because I've been out of therapy for a while, and I was struggling really bad with some stuff because of recent events in my life that affected me quite severely. And the second one was when I thought I was going to be homeless. I called and got myself Baker acted because they got turned down by a homeless shelter, which was honestly probably for the best. It was probably better that I was Baker acted. The cops there did not treat me very well. Me like shit. But yeah, they turned me down. And so, thankfully, stuff ended up working out, and I wasn't homeless, but I thought I was. And I was like fucking ran out of my house, and I didn't even get to grab my shoes. It really sucked. Uh, so two of the times were not really for mental health stuff, but the other ones were. The other ones were. Along with being Baker acted, I have been sent to they're called residential facilities. How polite a term. Basically, this is where you were going to a couple of months at least. You're going to be there for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, maybe longer. The facility determines that. You don't get to determine. The facility does. So yeah. So yeah. To connect all this. No, why is hold on, wait, sorry, there's an error. Let's see. Can I fix it? Can we fix it? Yes, we can. It's not. It's not. Okay, it isn't. Open widget. Okay. Okay, we're all good. I don't know if you heard me. I don't know if my audio was fine or it was just my video or what it was, but but if you didn't, I can restate what I said. Okay, good. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. I'm fine. I'm I am. Did you hear me talking about answering your question about when I was last Baker acted and the result why I was last Baker acted? Because that's also important. Yeah, yeah. Fucking sucked, but it all worked out, so it was all good. It all worked out, so it was fine. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. The only reason why I don't like talking about this stuff, yeah. The only reason why I don't like talking about this stuff isn't because I can talk about all this stuff, but I don't want to fucking make this all about my trauma or some shit. I don't want to make it seem like that because it isn't. Because this for me, my trauma obviously informs a lot of all this. The experience that I have inform a lot of all this. But this is at this point a little bit beyond that. It's I probably wouldn't be interested in this in the way I am if it wasn't for what happened to me. But now that I'm solidly interested in this stuff, um, my trauma only serves to, I guess, bolster points. Um, that's all it serves for me. It's a thing to be used. It's one more It's one more straw to the camel. The camel's back. Um, so to speak. Um, and this live stream is not about the tour, but before we go any further, which I think we're going to go for a little bit longer, I think I have a few more things I want to show everyone. We are going to talk about the tour. In the beginning, I brought up, well, the tour, I think, is very useful for a lot of this stuff. Is useful for a lot of this stuff. And why is it? Well, it's because of an ant tenant. Now, bet you're wondering, what is this ant tenant? I'm gonna pull it up. Let's see. Now we open Zotero. Choo-choo. Let's see. Is this it? Ah, no, this is it. This one is it. Okay. Tell me if you guys can see the PDF. Tell me if you guys can. I've never actually just switched things live. Oh, I guess I can also check on my end. I guess I don't actually have to. Fuck you guys. I actually don't have to do that. Dang. I don't actually have to ask you guys any questions. This is from Reassembling the Social, an introduction to actor network theory. This is in the second source of uncertainty. And we're going to read a little bit. The mistake we must learn to avoid is listening distractedly to these convoluted productions and ignore the queerest, baroque, and most idiosyncratic terms offered by the actors, following only those that have currency in the real world of the social. Alas, this mistake is made so often that it passes for good scientific method, producing mostly artifacts of social explanations. What a criminal says, "It is not my fault, I had bad parents." Should we say that society made her a criminal, or that she's trying to escape her own personal culpability by diluting it in the anonymity of society, as Mrs. Thatcher would have certainly commented? But the criminal said nothing of that sort. She simply said, "I had bad parents." Bad parenting, take it seriously, is not automatically translatable into something else, and certainly not into society. She did not say castrating mother either. We have to resist the idea that there exists somewhere a dictionary where all the variegated words of the actors can be translated into the few words of the social vocabulary. We have the courage not to substitute an unknown expression for a well-known one. Here lies the most morally, politically, and scientifically relevant difference between the two sociologies. Even more difficult is when a pilgrim says, "Came to this monastery because I was called by the Virgin Mary." How long should we resist smiling smugly, replacing at once the agency of the Virgin by the obvious delusion of an actor finding pretext in a religious icon to to hide one's own delusions. Critical sociologists will answer, just as far as to be polite, it's bad manners to sneer in the presence of informants. A sociologist of associations, meanwhile, must learn to say, as long as possible, in order to seize the chance offered by the pilgrim to fathom the diversity of agencies acting at once in the world. If it is possible to discover today that the Virgin is able to induce pilgrims to board a train against all the scruples that tie them to home, that is a miracle indeed. When a famous soprano says, "It is my voice who tells me when to stop and when to begin," how quickly should the sociologist jump to the conclusion that the singer offers here a typical case of false consciousness, artists being always too ready to take what is of their own making as the fetish that makes them do things. It is not abundantly clear that this singer should not be listened to, but instead freed from her own delusion by the courageous exposition of her lives, down with muses and other undocumented aliens. And yet, the soprano did say that she shared her life with her voice that made her do certain things. Are we able to treasure this odd way of speaking or not? It was very precise, very revealing, very telling, and also very moving. Is not being moved, or rather put into motion by the informants, exactly what we should mean by an inquiry. The painful lesson we must learn is exactly the opposite of what is still being taught all over the world under the name of social explanation. Namely, we must not substitute a surprising, precise expression as a well-known repertoire of the social, which is supposed to be hidden behind it. We have to resist pretending that actors have only a language, the analyst possesses the meta-language, in which the first is embedded. As I said earlier, analysts are allowed to possess only some infralanguage, whose role is to simply help them become attentive to the actor's own fully developed meta-language, reflexive account of what they are saying. In most cases, social explanations are simply a superfluous addition that, instead of revealing the force behind what is said, stimulates what has been said. Garfinkel is never tired of showing. There's no use claiming that natural scientists also keep adding hidden entities in order to make sense of phenomena. When natural science invoke invisible entities, it is to account for the trickiest details of the matter at hand, to look away from embarrassing information to less recalcitrant ones. And there's another thing that I want to read before we continue. We take more. Let's see. Okay, I might not be able to find it. I don't remember the exact quote. But I'm going to paraphrase it. Latour's actually kind of brought it up with other things a lot of times. One of the things you can never do when you're an ant scholar, go in assuming you know more than the actors you are talking to. This doesn't mean that you cannot question them, that you cannot do anything. The questions, though, you questioning them, you questioning what they're saying, asking them about all this, maybe even putting something on them, happens at the end. It doesn't happen at the beginning. You don't get to do that at the beginning. You wait till the end, the very end. And why is all of what I just read important to me in for this stuff? Um, in dealing with a lot of psychiatrists, with a lot of therapists, I kind of find that they often do this. They often do what was being described. They assume they know more, of course. They put terms on me, they put labels on me that don't belong, then things that aren't what I said. Um, I don't know how common this is. I haven't talked to anyone about therapy, but I assume it's pretty common. I assume it's really common. I understand um, that maybe for specific purposes, you almost need to do this. You almost need to, in the medical practices in America, substitutes something for something else so that a person can get treatment. I kind of understand that. When we're actually dealing with this patient, never have to do that. Yeah, Ant to me is not just a critique of sociology; it's a critique of psychology. It's very much a critique of psychology for me at least. Um, I think it's very useful for psychology. I'm actually interested. I think I actually did find something about it being used for psychology, adopting some things um, that STS people and ant theorists have considered because it's really important. I think it's the reason I fell in love with the tour. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. I think I might have a few more things, and then we can stop streaming. Let me switch back to this. Close Zotero. I'm hoping it's just in this one where it has it. I had a I had something. Yeah. We watched the video. We're all good. There was something else though that I had. Let's see. Oh, this was for this. Let me go back to my Google Doc then. Called um okay. Hmm. Where would it be? Oh, I know. I can type county. County doesn't appear in this paper. Why does not that not appear? Hmm. Or haha, I found it. Okay. So, um I didn't want this to be just about the horrors. There are very much efforts in Florida to change things, to um help things out. Um in this paper, it also talks about something called MRTs, which is called mobile response teams. And mobile response teams, um, when you are when one is getting gotten called when one is getting called to you, you don't necessarily have to be um, you don't necessarily have to be Baker active. And oh, it was right here. So we're gonna read this, and this is where we're gonna end it. This is gonna be on a happy note. Mobile response team (MRT) services were less developed and required additional quality guidance and planning to ensure effective implementation. Teams began responding to calls at different times between July 2018 and March 2019. By March 2019, there were 40 MRTs serving 67 counties in Florida that target services to individuals under the age of 25. MRTs are required to respond to a mental health crisis in the community within 60 minutes, either face-to-face or through use of telehealth. Although staffing patterns vary across teams, each team had access to a psychiatrist or an advanced practice registered nurse. The MRT monthly reports for July and August of 2019 demonstrated an 80% statewide average diverting individuals from involuntary examination. This is good. Um, there's another thing called CAT, which is community action treatment. Um, there are ways to reduce Baker Acts by a lot. And even if you think we need Baker Acts, this is my ultimate point. Even if you think we have to keep the Baker Act, we need to keep it. It has to stay. There's nothing we can't do without it. We have to have it. There are ways to reduce Baker Acts. There are ways to prevent kids from being fucking traumatized by being handcuffed by police officers when they are potentially experiencing a legitimate mental health crisis. There are ways to solve these things. We can. We can really do it. And we don't need to send kids to these places where staff are potentially going to treat them like shit, where they're going to be doing horribly, where they're potentially going to watch kids be dragged out of the room and be horrified. When I was in there, I saw kids as young as 6 or 7. I saw kids as young as 6 or 7. Some kids were, 10, 11. I was 12 when I first happened. There are ways. There are ways. There are ways while keeping all this. And that's my ultimate point about everything. Anyone who defends what we have right now, I try to be very sympathetic to people and empathetic and understand where they come from. My immediate reaction to you will always be that you are a monster, that you don't care about these people that you want to protect, that you are heinous. And I know that's probably not entirely true. There's something much more complicated probably going on inside of your head. You probably have some things. But my immediate reaction, because of everything I've seen, everything I've experienced, everything that's happened to me, or I've watched happen to other people, that's my immediate response. That's my response in my head. And sometimes I hide that response, but sometimes I just can't, because people will say heinous shit, terrible shit. So if you care about kids, even if you want this kept, even if you want all this kept, there's just ways. There's ways for Florida. I guarantee you can find places, more stuff about other states, other ways to reduce it. Lots of ways. Oh, something else. I think it's probably in this type of paper. Police. Um, mhm. All right. We're gonna read this before we finish. Some problems that arise under the Baker Act are that 2 of the 3 statutorily authorized individuals to apply the criteria are not licensed mental health professionals. Judges can decide on a child's mental illness without any mental health training. Law enforcement officers who typically initiate the involuntary examinations also have no formal training related to mental health unless the department itself implements a training program. Law enforcement officers make up the majority of initiations. They are the first person to be contacted when a person believes there is an emergency regarding a child who may be suffering from mental illness and who may imminently harm themselves or others. Yeah, yeah. Um, Police officers in the majority. This is the thing. Most of my Baker Acts were by police officers. There wasn't a mental health professional there. Um, there wasn't anyone. Cops got called, and cops with no experience. Yeah, there's changes that can be made. If you want to keep things similar to how they are now, there's changes that can be made. If you don't, like me, think there needs to be a radical restructuring of all this stuff um, to better help people. Um, there's still changes. There still is. Despite wanting this, when I read stuff like this, when I read stuff like this, this makes me happy. Recently, on my last one, I actually had an experience with a mobile response team. I had an experience with one of these services being implemented. Um, you don't know, people don't understand how much that really means. Like, to me, I didn't really need their help. It wasn't really something I needed. There's just a lot you can do. There's a lot. So, to finish off, we're going to read what Kirisu says. This is so important. Who holds the first concept of categorization with institutional treatment in any system? Like, there was a very bad result within immigration system UK, where hotels and hostel staff without training dealing with complex emergent problems like sexual abuses. They are not trained to understand. Their decision will have an impact on refugees. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's connected in a lot of very different ways. Don't just think you need to read up about psychology or about this to find ways to fix this. There's ways to overlap everywhere. Thank you all for everyone who decided to watch. And I hope everyone enjoyed this. Have a good one.